This is your last set of video notes. This is still Unit 3 that we've been studying on applications, and this application of math is for percentages. Now, percentages are something we see all the time, all over the place, and so this should be fairly familiar. I'm going to teach you different techniques to work with percentages, and I think you'll find them pretty straightforward. You will definitely need your calculator for this section. Either your big calculator or a little 4-function calculator is fine too. But you will need your calculator for these percentage problems. So we start with section 7.1 on the basics of percent. Percent is a ratio with a denominator of 100. So percent is always out of 100. So if we write the percents as decimals, 25% is 25 out of 100, which is equal to 0.25. And if you're not sure how I got that, 25 divided by 100 is 0.25. So 40% would be 40 out of 100, which is 0.4. 50% would be 50 out of 100, which is 0.5. 4% is 4 out of 100. 4 divided by 100, be careful here, is 0.04. There's a very big difference between 0.04 and 0.4. If someone was supposed to give you a 4% interest rate on your credit card, and they accidentally typed in 0.4, that would be a 40% interest rate on your credit card, which would be very, very bad. So there's a very big difference between 4% and 40%, and it's that 0 between the decimal point and the 4. So be very, very careful when you're writing these. 62% is 62 out of 100, which is 0.62. 5% is 5 out of 100, which is 0.05. So again, notice the difference between 50% and 5%. Very big difference, and it's the 0 between the decimal point and the value. So be very, very careful with those problems. If you're not sure, always use your calculator, divide by 100, and then copy exactly what you see. So that's from percentages to decimals. If we want to go the other way, from decimals to percents, we multiply by 100. So 0.95, if we do 0.95 times 100, that will give us the percentages, 95%. 0.16, if we multiply by 100, will give us 16%. 0.3, if we multiply that by 100, and if you're not sure to use your calculator, 0.3 times 100 is 30. So it's 30%. 0.03 is different. So if we type in 0.03 times 100, we just get 3. So again, very big difference. We have to be very careful on those. So this is 3%. 2.8, it's a little weird. 2.8 times 100 is 280%. And we say the percent is always out of 100. So that is when something increases by a lot, more than double, almost triple. That would be an increase of 280%. The stock market does this a lot. It increases by over 100%. And finally, 0.42, if we multiply that times 100, we will get 42%. Notice that on every single one of these, when I have a percentage, you see the percentage symbol on every single problem. That is not optional. You have to have it. Notice on every single one of these problems, you have the percentage symbol behind it. If the number you're referring to is a percentage, it has to have the percentage symbol. Otherwise, we won't know what to do with it. It has to have the percentage symbol. So we can go from percentage to decimals. We can go from decimals to percentages. We can go from percentages to fractions, which is kind of what we did at the beginning. Percentages to fractions. So 50% is 50 out of 100, and we always write it in lowest terms. This can reduce all the way down to 1/2. And you might already know that 50% is 1/2, and it's a fraction in lowest terms. 19% is 19 out of 100. There is no way to reduce that, so that is your final answer. 6% is 6 out of 100, and we can reduce that to 3 out of 50. 125% looks like that, and we can reduce that to 5 over 4. That is the improper fraction, or 1 1/4 as a mixed number. So that's, again, a percentage higher than 100% would make an improper fraction, and it would make a mixed number when you converted it. And so anytime you have a value over 100%, your top number on your fraction will be bigger than your denominator, and that does happen sometimes. So 5 over 4 is 125%. And finally, I can write fractions as percentages. This is a two-step process. The first thing you do is divide, and the second thing you do is multiply by 100. So we divide to get the decimal, and then from the decimal we multiply by 100 to get the percentage. So let's go ahead and try those. 1 over 4, I'm going to do 1 divided by 4 in the calculator, and then I'm going to multiply that by 100. So 1 over 4 is 25%, and you might already know that. 3 over 4, I'm going to divide and then multiply by 100, and that's 75%, and again, you might already know that. 7 over 8, I'm going to do 7 divided by 8, and I'm going to multiply by 100. That gives me 87.5%. And finally, 5 over 6, and then multiply by 100. Now this gives me a repeating decimal. When that happens, the computer, the MyMathLab, will tell you how to round, and I'll tell you how to round on your quizzes and tests as well. So this would be about 83.3% if I just do one decimal place. So it will tell you explicitly how to round for each one of these. And I just made a note at the bottom, like I was saying earlier, you must always write the percentage symbol after any value that is a percentage. This is not optional. So all of these were percentages, and I had to write the percentage symbol. So you'll notice anytime I have a value in percentage form, you see the percentage symbol, and that's very, very important to be very clear about at all times. Alright, I believe that is it for section 7.1, just the basics of percent. I'm going to continue into section 7.2, which is on the percent proportion. This is something that, again, most students are pretty good at. The percent proportion is the easiest way to solve any problem about percentage. And you take your percent and you put it over 100, just like we just did, and that is always equal to the part over the total. And that is the same setup every single time, and then you cross multiply to solve. So every single problem that we're going to be looking at, solve the same way. You set it up the same way, you cross multiply to solve it the same way, which is why we find these problems a little bit easier. Even though they are considered word problems, our brains can handle them a little bit easier. So this first question, 75 of the 110 rental cars were rented out today. What percent is this? So the question is asking for the percentage. I'm going to make that the x value. So x out of 100 equals the part out of the total. X out of 100 equals the part over the total. From here I'm going to cross multiply. Let me change colors. X times 110, and then 100 times 75. That's going to give me 110x equals 7,500 divided by 110. And x equals 7,500 divided by 110. There's my answer. I'm going to round that off. It will again specify how to round on your homework. I'm going to make that 68.18. Now remember, we're answering in percentage, so we have to have the percentage symbol behind our answer. About 68%. We'll try that again. Example 2 says 60 employees is what percent of 750 employees? So again, it's asking for the percentage. X over 100 equals 60 over 750. So again, we're going to cross multiply here to solve. X times 750 equals 100 times 60. So that's 750x equals, I believe that's 6,000. Let me double check. 60 times 100 is 6,000. And then we will divide by 750. And x equals 8%. And we're answering in percentage, so we put the percentage symbol. If you're getting the hang of this, feel free to pause the video and try the next few on your own. Even if it's asking for a different piece of the proportion, we still set it up the same, cross multiply to solve. So this next example says, of the $2,000 budget, 15% will be spent on a washing machine. How much is that? So this time we have the percentage. 15 out of 100 equals how much out of, so of 2,000, that means that 2,000 is the total amount of money you're going to spend. And out of that, how much of that is 15%? So percent out of 100 equals part over total. Cross multiply to solve. 100 times x, 15 times 2,000. That's going to be 100x equals 15 times 2,000, which is 30,000. Divide by 100, divide by 100, and x equals 300. Now we're not in percentage, we are in dollars, $300. So watch your units. If you're solving for the percentage, you put the percentage symbol. If you're solving for something else, you use the units that are appropriate. We're talking about money here. So $300 out of $2,000 would be the 15% for the washing machine. So watch your units at the end. Very similar example here. 15% of $165 is how much money? So what is 15% of $165? So it's going to be x out of 165. So again, the word of kind of tells you that that is the total of that much money. So that's your total. Then we'll cross multiply again. So I want to see the proportion at all times. I always want to see how you're setting up the problem. This second part of actually showing me how it cross multiplies, some of you are comfortable enough to skip that, and that's okay. You can totally skip that part. So you can skip the part I'm writing right now. I'm okay if you go straight from the proportion to the answer, because some of you are getting the hang of this very quickly. And you can skip over this part. If you feel more comfortable writing it down, that is fine with me too. But if you can do all of it in the calculator, I'm okay with that. So 2475 divided by 100 equals 24.75. Now are we talking about a percentage? No, we're talking about money. So $24.75. So just be aware that your answer is answering the question. I'm just going to keep going. Again, at any time you can pause and try these on your own. They all set up similar, just depends on what part they're asking for. So 9% of 3,250 miles is how many miles? So again, 9 out of 100 equals x out of 3250. So again, that word of tells us that that's the total. And then I'm not going to show my work on this. I'm just going to cross multiply and divide. You can do all of that in the calculator without having to write anything down. And if you get used to this enough, it's a very quick process. So if I do 3250, if you watch my calculator screen, times 9, hit enter, and divide by 100, that's what you're going to do every time. If you feel more comfortable writing it down, you can. But it is a very repetitive, similar process. So x equals, we're not talking money, 292.5, what are we talking about? Miles. So make sure to answer the question. We're talking about miles. 9% of that many miles is how many miles? There it is in miles. And then we'll try this again with example 6. 1,200 books is what percent of 5,000 books? So we're asking for the percentage this time. X out of 100 equals 1,200 out of 5,000. Cross multiply and divide. You can either write it down or just use your calculator, whichever is more comfortable for you. 5,000 x equals 100 times 1,200. It's 120,000. Watch your zeros. Just be careful on the calculator. The calculator doesn't use commas, and that the commas help us find our zeros. So just count from the left and just watch your zeros. And then divide by 5,000. And so just be very careful with this when you type it in. Make sure you're counting your zeros. And x equals 24. And this time we are talking about a percentage, so x is 24%. So I have another page of examples, and it's just the same process. Set up that proportion, cross multiply, and solve. Set up the proportion, cross multiply, solve every time. It'll ask for different pieces, but the setup remains consistent. So I'll continue. It says what percent of $6.50 is 52 cents? The is and the of, some instructors show is over of. Is the part, of is the total. So is over of, which is kind of a mouthful, but if that helps in these types of problems. What percent of $6.50 is 52 cents? 0.52 over 6.5. 0. Be careful with your decimals. Make them obvious. Be careful when you're putting decimals in the calculator. It can be a little tricky. So you should have 6.50x equals 100 times 0.52. Is 52, so just be careful there. Divide by 6.50, divide by 6.50. 52 divided by 6.50. So just be careful when you type in your calculator that you see those decimal points and that they're in their correct spot. And so the answer is x equals 8, and it's asking for the percentage, so it's 8%. Have to have that percent sign behind it. So example 8, 37 cars is 74% of how many cars? So this is a little trickier. 37 is the part, 37 is, so is over of. So 74 out of 100 is the percentage. It's saying that 37 is the part and the total is the unknown of how many cars. So the question is of how many. So again, is over of can help you with that. And the cross multiplying and the solving remain the same. This would be 74x equals 3,700. Divide by 74. And x equals 3,700 divided by 74 is 50. And of how many cars? Let's write about cars. 50 cars. So those are the hardest problems when they're asking for the total. The wording can be a little weird on those. So I think I have a couple more of those examples here. 45% of how much money, so there's your of how much money is $540. So is the part. It's asking for the total. So 45 out of 100 equals 540 over x. Those can be the hardest to set up. So this would be 45x equals 54. Let me make sure I did that right. 540 times 100, 54000, so 54,000. Divided by 45. And x equals 1,200, and we're talking about money, $1,200. So $1,200 would be your total, 540 would be your part, and that would be 45% of $1,200. You want to try the last three on your own, go ahead and pause the video. If not, I will just keep working these out. Example 10 says 1.2 tons is 2.5% of how many tons? So 2.5 out of 100 equals 1.2 out of x. So again, we're looking for the total. So 1.2 times 100 is 120. So 2.5x equals 120. Divide by 2.5, make those decimals nice and clear. Divide by 2.5, and x equals 48. And we're talking about tons. 48 tons is your total, is your whole number or total. All right, last couple. If 7 students failed, what percent of 350 students failed? So it's asking for percentage x over 100 equals 7 out of 350. So that would be 350x equals 700. Divide by 350. And x equals, I believe it's 2%. Let me just make sure. Yep, 2%. So it's asking for the percentage. That would be a 2% failed. And last but not least, 32% of 900 women are retired. How many of the 900 are retired? So it's asking for how many. What's the part? So 32 out of 100. It's always easy to find the percentage. The part is what we're missing. It says of 900. So 900 is your total. 100x equals 32 times 900. It's 28,800. And then divide by 100. And I believe that's 288. Let me just make sure. Yep, 288 women. So the proportion sets up the same every single time. Percent over 100 equals part over total. The only tricky wording are the is and the of. Is goes on top, of goes on the bottom of the total. Is the part. Other than that,